Follower by Seamus Heaney. My father worked with a horse plough. His shoulders globed like a full sail strung between the shafts and the furrow. The horses strained at his clicking tongue. An expert, he would set the wing and fit the bright steel-pointed sock. The sod rolled over without breaking. At the head rig, with a single pluck of reins, the sweating team turned round and back into the land. His eye, narrowed and angled at the ground, mapping the furrow exactly. I stumbled in his hobnailed wake, fell sometimes on the polished sod. Sometimes he rode me on his back, dipping and rising to his plod. I wanted to grow up and plough, to close one eye, stiffen my arm. All I ever did was follow in his broad shadow round the farm. I was a nuisance, tripping, falling, yapping always. But today it is my father who keeps stumbling behind me and will not go away. This poem is by the celebrated Irish poet Seamus Heaney, and he was later awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature, if memory serves. So he was born in County Tyrone in the 1930s, son of a prosperous farmer, one of several children, and he was an academic as well as a poet for his whole career. And he thinks he was the professor of poetry at Oxford University, the only elected professorship in the world. Anyway, so Professor Heaney here is reminiscing about his childhood in rural Northern Ireland. And you can see the meter in this poem. My father worked with a horse plough. His shoulders globed like a full-strung sail. So like a full sail strung. Iambic pentameter, methinks. And anyway, it somewhat rhymes. You see the half rhyme of plough and furrow, strung and tongue, wing and breaking, sock and pluck, and so forth. Sort of so A B A B. So it's rich in imagery, is very closely observed. He's written another one digging about his relationship with his father, about perhaps feelings of inadequacy because he ploughed a different furrow, if you will. He went to these richer pastures of academe, and he didn't become a farmer like his father before him. So little children are wont to be admiring of their fathers and want to be like dad when they grow up. And Seamus Heaney appears to be no exception. So he's overawed by his father's might and how he manages to plough. Of course, sort of in the 1930s and 40s, a lot of farmers couldn't afford tractors and things, which is why using a horse plough was a perfectly normal thing. The shafts, as in these wooden poles, I suppose, of the plough. The furrow is the very long groove they're cutting on the field to put the seeds in. So his father's presumably reassuring the equines with this sort of sound. I don't know why that soothes them. And they're strained as the horses are pulling the heavy gear. And his shoulders globed, so they're raised up like that. They're spread out like a full sail strung. So he's very impressed with his father's physicality. An expert. So it's an improper sentence, just two words. An expert, full stop. It's because his father is such, well, I don't know, a connoisseur of ploughing. He's so good at it. So this is why he's got his father on a pedestal. He would set the wing and fit the bright steel-pointed sock. Okay, so this is some sort of jargon with parts of a plough. I don't know what that is. So he's seeing how good his father is doing this. He's enhanced his agricultural virtuosities from all these years of ploughing. Of course, there's nothing about agronomy that he doesn't know. The sod rolled over without breaking. The sod meaning a small amount of earth, this clumped, somewhat moist earth. At the head rig, that is a part of the contraption attached on the horse's head to keep the plough to it, with a single pluck, as when you simply pick it up of the reins. So when he pulls them once, the sweating team. Remember, team being the collective noun of horses. It was only applied to human beings from the 18th century onwards when we really evolved team sports. And back into the land. Okay, so as they turn at the end of the furrow, his eye narrowed and angled at the ground. Okay, so he's watching it analytically, mapping the furrow exactly, so it mustn't go too far to either left or right. I stumbled in his hobnailed wake. As his father's wearing these hobnailed boots, wake is in his trail, particularly if you're sailing a boat across water, where it causes the water to eddy and whiten with bubbles. That's the wake. Of course, we're going on land here, but as though following his footsteps. And perhaps metaphorically too, he wants to do that when he grows up one day. And so Seamus Heaney is perhaps so small, maybe a toddler, why he can't walk properly and he's wont to fall over. I fell sometimes on the polished sod because the earth is smooth and slippery. Sometimes he rode me on his back. I'm not sure why he's written that way. I rode on his back, not he rode on like that. Dipping and rising to his plod as in his tread, as the father goes up and down with his feet moving, raising his legs, or the earth might be somewhat uneven in places. I wanted to grow up and plow. Okay, so when he's an adult, he's going to do the same job as his dad. To close one eye, that's just as his father done. To stiffen my arm, which he needs to do to control the plow. All I ever did was follow. Okay, so he's literally doing that, but also he is a follower in the sense that he's like a disciple of his father in his broad shadow. Of course, the father is much broader than him. Maybe he's a very strong man round the farm. I was a nuisance, I suppose, yes, because it's a distraction from his father's laborious task, tripping and falling. It's a bit of tautology, yapping always. Well, he's speaking a lot, and we know he's very verbal. He ended up as a poet. But today it is my father who keeps stumbling. So he's writing that his father is elderly, behind me, and will not go away. Poignantly, there's no full stop at the end, so he finds his father irritating when his father's in his dotage. Does he even want his father to die? Something like that. There's now role reversal. Is his father's dependent on him? Is his father who can't really cope, who's a distraction from whatever vital tasks Professor Heaney has before him. So yeah, it's written in four lines each verse. They're quatrains. Behind me and will not go away. So it's a shorter line. It's only 8 syllables to the last line, and that's perhaps significant because as an extraordinarily gifted poet, nothing will be by accident. He will have crafted it with the greatest of care, and this will bear some signification. He wants us to notice that he set up a pattern and then jolted us out of it. So that is Follower by Heaney.